So today's reading is from Rays of the Same Light, and it's written by Swamiji, but all the teachings in it are based on how Yoganandaji taught it. The following readings are from the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita. Each week we read from both scriptures as prescribed by Yoganandaji and by his guru Sri Yukteswarji, who was guided by Babaji to compare the two scriptures to show the same underlying truths between them. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. This passage is from the 18th chapter, 67th stanza from the Bhagavad Gita. Never speak of these truths to one who is without self-control or devotion, who renders no service, who does not care to hear, or who speaks ill of me. Commentary. It is common to find scriptural warnings not to share high teachings with people who are not capable of understanding them. Christ as well taught his disciples truths, which he felt it necessary to withhold from the multitudes. This passage of the Bhagavad Gita is doubly interesting, for it presents the disqualifications in terms of their opposite virtues. One who is without self-control, who performs no service, etc. Thus shows us how to qualify for higher teachings. Quite simply, these are the virtues we need to develop. We see here an ever-inspiring feature of this great scripture. Even in addressing sin, it does so in a way as to offer positive guidance. Never does it leave even the least worthy without hope. The first reference of this passage is to people who are without self-control. Such persons are not capable of perceiving reality on subtler than sensory levels. Such persons are not capable of perceiving, their lack of self-discipline makes them unceasingly restless, incapable of concentration, their equanimity battered by life's ups and downs. They are a constant prey to confusion. Worldly people are like someone who is fond of the noise and glitter of a nightclub, but feel uneasy before the beauty of a moonlit lake. The mind of one without self-control is like a milk pail riddled with holes. No matter how much milk is poured into it, it all leaks out again. Those who want to develop spiritually must learn to control their senses. An excellent means of doing so is through the practice of yoga concentration techniques. These techniques help the devotee to hold his senses in check by the reins of his will. Next, the Gita says not to teach deep truths to those who lack devotion. Such people too are foreigners to spiritual insight. By devotion alone can that unitive consciousness be comprehended, which is the essence of wisdom. The nature of the intellect is to analyze, to see how this concept differs from that. It is, on the other hand, the special quality of the heart, once its emotions have been transmuted into calm feeling, to sense the underlying unity in diversity, and to understand the soul's eternal affinity for God. No matter how intelligent a person may be, by intellect alone he will never grasp divine truths. Vital to spiritual insight is intuitive feeling, again, a heart faculty. Intellectual understanding is theoretical and therefore essentially vicarious. Intuition alone is experiential. God is love. As a radio program can only be heard clearly over a radio that is properly tuned to it, so the devotee can receive divine inspiration only when his consciousness is tuned to the proper wavelength of truth, that is to say, in the upliftment of divine love. Even in a classroom where lessons are normally taught intellectually, those students are most likely to draw from the teacher who loves the subject they are studying. How much more necessary it is then for the devotee to love God. Again, as poetry is not for those who prefer to read stock market reports, so divine truths are not for those whose minds are occupied with hunting for spiritual bargains. As Christ put it, Father, thou hast hid these things from the wise and prudent, and hast revealed them unto babes. The Bhagavad Gita tells us further that high spiritual teachings should be withheld from those who render no service. Many self-styled devotees think only of achieving spiritual gains for themselves. They are not interested in giving of themselves to God or to God through others. Spiritual progress for such seekers is not possible, for it affirms the very egoism which spiritual practices are designed to overcome. The person who understands the path in terms of self-offering can attune himself to God's grace, for grace, too, is a self-offering on God's part of love. By giving of oneself, the heart's chalice becomes emptied and cleansed, making it possible, therefore, for God to fill it with his light. The Bhagavad Gita says that divine teachings should be held also from those who do not care to hear them. This means, taking the positive interpretation, that one's readiness to learn depends on how intensely one does care. In other words, on how fervently one longs for God. There is a story about a boy who went to a saint to learn from him. The saint led him down into a nearby lake. There he pushed his head under water and held it until the boy began to kick frantically. Releasing him then, he inquired, "What did you want just now, more than anything else?" "Air!" cried the boy, inhaling it in great gulps. "Come back to me," rejoined the saint, "when you want God just as badly. I will gladly teach you then." The final disqualifying condition listed in this stanza of the Bhagavad Gita is that for one to be worthy of receiving divine teachings, he must not speak ill of the Lord. How one might wonder, would anyone who spoke ill of him need even to be disqualified? Wouldn't he solve the problem by simply refusing to be taught? There are many, however, who seem willing enough to receive divine teachings, but who in fact are curiosity seekers rather than devotees. One way of speaking ill of the Lord is to cheapen his teachings. This curiosity seekers do. Another way is to seek truth with the attitude of a habitual fault finder. The no-saying principle is an oft-encountered trait in human nature. It exists not only among worldly people, but among devotees. This quality arises from inner resistance to the soul's natural impulse to expand in God. The carping critic, the complaining critic, typically tells himself that he likes arguing only because he wants to arrive at the truth of a matter honestly. The Gita, however, emphasizes here that the fault-finding tendency actually prevents people from arriving at higher perceptions of truth. Fault-finding, indeed, belongs to a lower level. It is faith that is needed to perceive the truth and to understand it at its depths. Such perception comes as an intuitive flow. To know what a river feels like, one must enter its water. It would be pointless to stand on the bank and complain that the water might make him wet. To sum up the Gita's teachings on this stanza then, to know God, one must renounce worldly attitudes and behavior. He must be willing to live not in the ego, but in soul consciousness. That person alone is fit to receive divine teachings, who is self-controlled, who has devotion to God, who renders loving service to God through others, and who longs to hear the truth spoken, and who, far from speaking ill of God, sings his name in his heart wherever he goes, and reverently and with joy. Christ says in the gospel, "Give not that which is unholy unto dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet, and turn again and rend you," or, attack you. In Christ's counsel, we see then that he accepted evolution of human consciousness as a self-evident fact. Our own democratic era denies inequality of talent and intelligence. Divine realities, however, cannot be voted into or out of existence by mere opinion, nor altered by opinion polls. Mankind grows only gradually towards perfection. Every devotee, therefore, must look ahead to see how he might become progressively more worthy of God's grace. It is important to understand the words here in their best sense, for Christ never showed himself callous towards others. To withhold deeper explanations of truth from people who are unreceptive to them, however, may well be the only way of attracting them eventually to embrace the truth, on the tested principle that forbidden fruits taste sweeter. To inflict teachings on them, however, before they are ready to receive them, may only build up in them a subconscious resistance to truth that might remain with them all their lives. People are not all equally ready for the truth. To force calculus on a child before he has learned preliminary mathematics would be useless and might well cause him to grow up hating math. Every human being needs to develop at his own natural pace. Spiritual truths, then, should be taught selectively. That is not to say that we have no right to them eventually. On a deeper soul level, the highest truths are ours eternally. They are never denied us, but they are only withheld temporarily until our receptivity equals the power of the revelation they contain. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om. So this is a packed reading, isn't it? Of course, the devotee in the room says, I hope that's not me. I hope I'm okay. I hope I deserve these teachings, which, of course, anyone with a sincere heart does. So wipe that off the slate. However, how often do we want to reveal to other people, hey, you got to know about these teachings? But you can see how if someone isn't ready, then they just resist, and that resistance can happen inside so strongly. If you keep pushing, they may say, hey, forget it. Don't ever say anything like that to me again. And in fact, I don't want to have anything to do with it. So, hey, back off. And now I know I hate anything you're doing. And I will feel this way the rest of my life. Maybe not, but you never know. It's much better. In fact, I was telling a class this yesterday. It's amazing it came up in this also. It's much better to instead allow people to come to you. If you are radiating peace and have changed, people often notice when you change. We'll hear, Mom, you're not as angry anymore. Dad, you don't yell at me anymore. This is great. And, and so it doesn't mean you're not strong, but, a little self-discipline doesn't hurt, does it? And so allow people instead to come to you and say, hey, you seem more peaceful. What are you doing? And then maybe you give them a little bit. You just say, oh, well, I'm going to this meditation center. I learned how to meditate. It's really helped me. And then leave it at that. Wait until they say, now, where is this center? I really need that too. Then maybe say a little bit more. Hey, you might want to read Autobiography of a Yogi. Things like that. So, but just even though we might feel fervently inside, we might feel so happy we have these teachings, saved my life, these types of things. Best not to say that right away to others, Otherwise, they may get turned off. You just never know. Even in India, this can happen. I think when I first came, I had an idealistic view of how Indians might be all open to spirituality, and it's not true. Indians are like everyday people like in any other country, except more spiritual. It's just kind of in the soil. As Master called this, hallowed soil, where the saints have walked. And how can you help but not soak in the divine from a hallowed soil? How can you not? So, anyway, that's why we like being here, in addition to loving all of you guys. So, I wanted to start off actually with the last quality that Swamiji brought up. Here in Chennai, Ananda has been in India now 20 years. It's been in America 50 or 60 years. Swamiji left his body after he'd been on the path 60 years ago, and that was 11 years ago. So he was at least teaching now 70-something years. Master, since early on, has been sending waves of Om for this. And anyway, back to Chennai. We've taught now thousands of people around Chennai the level 1 course. And it's just astounding. Thousands, though, equals 300 Kriya bonds. So, if you just say 300 Kriya bonds, you say, wow, that's great. But when you say, but it started from thousands of people, then maybe you say, hey, what's going on? The thing is, there's something called self-selection that happens here. People come, they might say, this isn't for me, and then go. Or they come and they say, Hong Sa's fine. Hong Sa, I don't need more. They may say, this is too hard. What do you mean meditate an hour and a half a day? Forget it. They may say, Yogananda's the guru. Forget it. I want just Babaji. And, I have to say, Babaji is a guiding force here. However, we, Swamiji, Master, were only given the power to give discipleship on behalf of Master, not anybody else. If you really want to be a disciple of Babaji, you should go to the Himalayas and wait for him to appear to you and take it that way, because we can only do it on behalf of Master. That's just how it is here. It doesn't mean we don't love every single guru on the altar, which we do. And it doesn't mean we don't celebrate them. But the discipleship taken is Master, and some people aren't fully clear on that. They think, no, Babaji's my guru only. If you feel that way, go to the Himalayas. You should renounce what you got here, go to the Himalayas, and have Babaji appear to you, and then give it to you. Babaji gave Master and Sri Yukteswar and Lahiri Mahashaya to give discipleship. Of course, he works through everybody also, but he said, you are giving discipleship. These are avatars, people who, incarnated on this earth, who were high above. And, you can say, one avatar is better than the other, but can we ourselves really comprehend that? So anyway, that's just an aside. But I'll start off with the person who has what's called the carping spirit, the complaining spirit. That's someone who comes here. We've seen people come and go. And I've seen it for the past, decades, all over the world, seeing certain types come and go. Because a certain type who comes with some of these negative qualities, sooner or later gets bored and leaves. Or they can't change things to be the way they want, and so then they go. And that's called self-selection. We don't have to say, hey, all you have is the carping spirit, all you do is complain, you can't have Kriya. We don't say that. Instead, we say, fine, pursue the path with all your heart, if you can. And if you can meditate an hour and a half, one way or another, this path changes people. All this type of person has the possibility of changing. That's why it was so wonderful when Swamiji wrote, the Bhagavad Gita doesn't leave us without hope. You know, they don't say, oh, lost cause. This is the list of the lost cause people. No. This is the list of people who at this point aren't ready. But sooner or later they will. This is the inevitability of all human beings. They will all merge in God one day. But the carping spirit, that's the type of person who is what I call inside out. Because all they can do, they can't perceive inner perceptions. They can't perceive, oh, I've received so much here. I feel so much love and devotion for Master. Instead, they can only look outward and see all the things they don't like. They don't have the ability to perceive inwardly. This happens, you might even see people like that at work. You know, not that they would be focusing on perceiving God, but, hey, why did that boss yell at me? Can't he see I'm a good person? Well, he's looking at you from some other kind of perception. Maybe only by your skills. Maybe only by how well you function in life. But not trying to tune into you and really give you encouragement in what you're doing in your life. And the carping person, the complaining person, can't even see that teachers here are trying to help. So why not just be open-hearted about it? You know, not everybody's perfect. We're not perfect. We never claim to be perfect. So, you know, why not give people a dash of salt? Meaning, you know, you're giving people compassion. If people are giving you compassion, can't you also give compassion back? In any case, when we just complain about life, we're ignoring the universal principle and law of karma. Why do bad things happen in my life? Does it have anything to do with me? I don't like karma. I don't believe in karma. I will not. It's like, well, no matter how much you proclaim that, you're not going to make karma go away. Karma is karma. It happens. And so what can we do? We have to surrender to a universal law if it's there. Now, of course, anybody who doesn't believe in it, you have a right to. But you're going to continue to say, why did that happen to me? Why did that happen to me? God must hate me. You know, and as soon as we start bringing God into it and blaming God, that's part of the speaking ill of God, which I'll get to at another point. Why is God doing this to me? Well, one day, a lifetime ago, we were really bad to other people. We're not that way anymore. So that's why we say, why did it happen to me? I'm a good person. I've tried my best. Hey, well, maybe what happened was that karmic principle is working. You didn't do enough in your past lives to make things better in this life yet. And my guess is things in this life are much better than they have been in past lives, especially if you've come here. Master said to want God, you have to have very, 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 very good karma. So we have to have gratitude for the good karma we have, gratitude for the people in our lives who are spending time trying to help us, gratitude to things we never thought of being grateful of before. How about grateful for the food on our tables? Does it have to be, come, give me my samosa, give me my idli, give me my dosa, now. You know, and the kids, ma, you know, that kind of thing. How about, thank you, ma, thank you. And, hey, can I help? I'd like to learn how to make idli and dosa. Anyway, we know lots of dads who do that. In fact, when we were living with our cousins, who are Dharmarajan's cousins, but by marriage mine, Ramu just loved to make idli and dosa and tea and things like that for us. And, you know, it was just so sweet. You know, he had a lot of... once my stomach was upset, so of course he gave me some buttermilk and really enjoyed stirring it with the thing. And putting the certain spices in it, and and then my stomach felt better, not only because of the buttermilk, but because of the love he put into it. It was very, very sweet. So anyway, we lived in Delhi for many years before we came back to America and then back to Chennai. And so we were immersed. We lived with Indians and things like that. So none of it was strange to us, like, ooh, what is this culture? So by the time we got to Chennai, we understood. But of course, people didn't know us, so they would say, in India, we do this. And in India, we do that. And it's like, okay. Anyway, so back to the carping spirit, back to karma. I'll just do a quick little thing, because this can be helpful, and it's helpful to me. When we create karma, it's because we were off center and something shot out of us, an energy shot out of us and was directed towards another or a situation or God or something. And so we then created this vortex that lives within us, but we created this vortex that then says, you need to be corrected. And so then that vortex, that energy says, I'm karma, and I'm coming to push you back into your center. Whatever behavior, whatever mindset, whatever made you off center, needs to be corrected to make you centered. And so, a lot of times we'll realize over lifetimes, oh, that's bad behavior, I won't do that anymore. But the karma's not over for some reason. Maybe it was an extra powerful piece of energy we put out, and so it requires a powerful karma. But maybe over lifetimes, a little bit was sent to us to kind of correct a little bit more, a little bit more. Luckily, we're not in Kali Yuga anymore, according to Sri Yukteswarji. Kali Yuga, think of the medieval times. There was just so much harshness, so much more, so things could be a lot worse, couldn't they? We're in a pretty much higher age, even though Dwapara Yuga is known for wars, because there's the fight of light versus dark. What side do we choose? So, we can also look at our lives and say, hey, I could have been, stuck in medieval times. Who knows about time travel or that kind of stuff, parallel universes, Your karma says you have to live in the medieval times over and over again. Who knows? Or you were so stuck in medieval times. Now when you're incarnated here, you think it's still medieval times and you're still like knocking people on the head and things like that. So in any case, that karma comes. That's why. So you could say harshly, it's your fault, it's your karma. We don't say things like that. Of course, when bad things happen, we feel compassion. Of course. However, that person who just complains about it, who just feels they've been treated unfairly, is not getting the point. And not only that, though, devotees who are not carping, who are not complainers, will often blame themselves more than they should. Because if you're here, if you're learning Kriya Yoga, it's been a long time since you've been a murderer, okay? It's been a long time since you had bad intentions. A long time ago. Because Master said, we've done everything. That's why we don't do it anymore. We've done everything. So basically, everybody in here is a good person. But we might have to pay for when we did that in a past life, slightly. But not take it as punishment. It's not punishment. It's a divine law. It's something to help us go back to the center. Now, that's hard when we're in the middle of really bad stuff happening, especially when a loved one dies. We'll think, did I do something? No. God takes that loved one when the timing is right for their soul. It has nothing to do with our karma. We feel badly when it happens, but then also we can learn that soul is not gone. That soul can be communicated with. That soul can still share love, can show up in our dreams. You know, these are things Master has taught us that are just so beautiful. So, anyway, take a good look at yourself. We all have a bit of the carping spirit. We all have a little bit of that complainer. And so it's good to just modify that in oneself and start looking at life in a new way. Start looking at life as what are the possibilities and the potentials as opposed to what has happened that's so terrible to me. And therefore I deserve to feel my life is terrible, and I will make everyone around me also have a terrible time whenever they're around me. So we need to look at our impact on others. Otherwise, we are creating more karma. If we are making other people miserable, we are creating more karma. We're still here. We're still trying to meditate, but we might be able to create bad karma still with our behavior. The goal is to get to the point where we are so centered in ourselves and uplifted that we are not creating new karma. We can't decide for ourselves we're not doing that, but we can try not to create bad karma if possible. So, you know, Swamiji came into this life a Jivan Mukta. That means he was no longer creating bad karma, but his karma would come to him. He had so many health issues, so many things happened in his life that he could have said, oh my God, life is so unfair. These are terrible things. But instead, he maintained his center, and I should say this. When we are in our center, when we are in the divine, then when karma does come, if we are already in our center, it really impacts us less. You know, it's similar to when Babaji pulled the log out of the fire and suddenly burned one of the devotees' arms. And he said, that's because you were supposed to die. And so I've taken on some of your karma, and you only need to have a really, really bad burn. A burning log. I mean, can you imagine the embers on that log and how much that must have hurt? But anybody who's with Babaji probably said, I understand, Master. You know, who cares about this? I'm in my center, and my guru, I take what my guru gives me. So, you know, think about how we do our lives, especially in this area, and take into account the law of karma. The next one I wanted to mention was, let's see, the issue of self-control. So the Gita was saying someone, you know, without self-control should not have these teachings. Well, we're all at different levels of self-control. And of course, anyone who comes here has probably been working on that, you know. Sooner or later, someone finds themselves in life miserable. And they say, I have to do something new. I have to do something that improves my life. And that's how very often people come here, because they've been suffering. And so, you know, that type of person who says, I need help. I know I need help. That's the type of person who really becomes successful on this path. Because you may be someone who has read every yoga book possible. You know, I used to work at what was called East-West Bookshop. After I was an engineer, I was upgraded working at Ananda to working at a bookshop. Just kidding. But in any case, I just was done with engineering and I was ready to just serve Master. So at this bookshop, it wasn't just Swami and Master's books. It was also every book on meditation, every book on yoga. I mean, it was really a spiritual candy land for anybody who, or candy store, for anyone who just wanted to go and explore the spiritual path. It was a wonderful service for the people in that community to come. You know, California has a little bit of a spiritual bent, you know, compared to some of the other states in the United States. California is probably the closest to India's vibration. And so there's a lot of people who are following gurus there, who are very open-minded. There's the opposite also. All you have to do is look at a Hollywood movie and you know what the opposite means. So not all Hollywood movies, some are uplifting, but not a lot. Anyway, you know, someone comes on the path, they may lack self-control, but what's wonderful about Hong Sa, energization, giving us pranayama, which means energy control, all of these techniques that we teach are aimed at helping naturally give someone self-control, naturally. However, you have to have interest in it too, because you can fight against self-control. If you don't have the right attitude, meaning I don't want to improve myself, I want to continue to hurt people or whatever, then you're going to maybe get self-control, but maybe use it in the wrong direction. Like, now that I have self-control, I want spiritual power. Give me that power, you know. And that's the wrong direction for it also. That'll give you some nice negative karma as well, to just pursue the yogic path with power. That's the curiosity seeker that Swamiji was talking about. Someone who comes here and has read every yoga book, it's never going to replace that beautiful divine experience of God that we can have. And you can't have it by technique alone, as we say over and over again. It can only come also with your positive intentions, your interest in God, and also your right attitude about life, and then also practicing the techniques in the right way. You know, when you're doing Hong Sa and you start feeling that love of the divine while you're doing it, it takes your Hong Sa practice to a whole new level. Same with Kriya and even for energization. Even energization can bring you bliss. It's a very blissful technique. You can live in bliss even in energization exercises. So the techniques are naturally giving us self-control. So if we're an especially emotional person without self-control who lashes out at people, hopefully your misery at doing that, because every time you lash out at someone, you feel guilty. Why did I do that one more time? Why did I hurt that person's feeling? Why am I alone in the world and no one likes me? You know, these are things that can bring introspection. And so we learn over time, okay, I'm going to reset myself. I'm going to try and keep my mouth shut, because that's the first step towards self-control with others. Keep your mouth shut. So we keep our mouth shut and we just meditate. And then suddenly we feel our heart transforming. We suddenly realize we can draw the energy in and not have to always be outward looking at other people. What do they think of me? You know, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like this, I don't like that, You know, instead, we draw the energy inside and begin to feel that inner happiness, that inner joy that comes. So then we've got, don't give anyone higher teachings who lacks devotion. Now, if you come to our classes, if you come to satsang, you will hear devotion, 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 devotion. You can't escape the talk about devotion. And, you know, Swamiji, when he first came on the path and met Master, Master said, you need to get devotion. very strongly. And so Swamiji took it literally from Master about that, and he got a harmonium, and he started chanting, and slowly but surely he started feeling that devotion. So it is learnable, but you have to have the intention, I really want it. And you have to have the open mind to say, Master, I need your help. And pray for devotion every day if you feel you don't have it. If you're not getting experiences of some higher consciousness in your meditation, meaning if you're not feeling that divine love, if you're not feeling that divine joy, it's because there's a lack of devotion. But you can ask for that. You can say, please guide my actions, guide my words, guide everything I do so that I can get devotion. I want it so badly, Master. I want it. Give it to me, please. Show me how. You can pray that way and it starts coming to you. So Swamiji had his harmonium, he chanted, and one day Master said, see how I've changed him? So, he said, see how I've changed Walter. He used to call Swamiji Walter because his name was Donald Walters. So he would just call him that. But see how I have changed him? If Swamiji were someone else, he'd say, okay, I'm really working on this devotion myself. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I'm chanting as much as I can. So, hey, I deserve devotion. Give it to me. Which we do in our meditations, don't we? Here I am. I've meditated so long. And where's my love and devotion? We have to meet God halfway, at least, with what we do. So, anyway, we talk about devotion all the time. So hopefully you get that. And then those who render no service, it's really more about a serviceful attitude. It's to give service in an authentic way. It means we're not doing it to please someone so that then they like us. We're not doing it because, okay, I'm going to get some good karma points if I do this. We're doing it because there's a real need to help others. There's a real need inside to help uplift others around us. To not because we are wonderful gurus and it should be seen about that, because we, hi Jitu, it's because we really want to feel the love more in our hearts. If you guys need to go and run outside, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to sit here and just listen to me drone on and on. Feel free to do whatever you want. It's not rude, okay? So when we feel in our hearts whatever will bring us devotion, let's see, what was I? No. The service, our service should be also done with devotion. And so we have a need. I know I'm only here because I have some kind of a need to serve Master. I can't explain it really, and I'm not going to. But nobody serves in this work, whether it's registering people or helping out with the camera or coming to the center during the week and helping keep it tidy. We often have work days, which we're going to have soon, and people come and do beautiful jobs of washing the paint to make it more white. And, we notice it, believe me. We may not be always at the work day, but we always notice it afterwards. And it's just people's love goes into serving. Now, some people are bound, have big families and have to only serve at home, and that's understandable. It's good to try to serve out of that loving need to serve as opposed to being forced to serve. That's the difference. If we just feel we're forced to serve and we have to do it, then it's not very pleasant. But if we can get that serviceful attitude, it really makes a difference. But some people do come and they just want the glory in their own mind. So once someone said, I will come and serve only if you give me something valuable to do. And it was like, okay, there's nothing you can do with that attitude. When Dharmarajan first arrived at Ananda village in California, he had been on the path for a number of years on the East Coast, but at that time, now there are many meditation groups. At that time, there were not that many. And it was just a group that met, I think, once in a month, not even every week. And he had to take a long train ride to get there. And also the lessons were just mail order, at the time. Remember, there used to be this thing called mail where you put a stamp on something and it you wait 7 days and it finally comes to you. Anyway, some people might be too young to remember that. But so anyway, he would receive the lessons that way. And then finally, after years graduating from college or university, I guess one would call it, finally was able to find his way to Grass Valley in California and help serve at the meditation, or not the meditation retreat, but the other retreat center, the Expanding Light Center there. And of course, he didn't really have the training, so he didn't know what to think, but he saw all the people in the office doing important work, and he thought, hey, I could contribute this way, as he saw some people in the kitchen, some people cleaning up the yard, some people. so he says, I have a lot of office skills. And he wasn't really, into a lot of labor-type jobs. He was at MIT learning theoretical mathematics and things like that and computers. So, someone in school doing that is not necessarily thinking of also being, heavy on the physical labor. Until later, when we all get married and we have to do everything together, don't we? So anyway, he... volunteered for that. He was very enthusiastic about that, but then the next day he was cleaning the bathrooms. And so he's told that story many times. But what he did, though, when he did, it wasn't just, oh, they got me, now I get it. I volunteered for the good job, but I got the bad job. Not that only. He thought, you know what? I feel so much joy doing whatever they assign me. I just feel joy helping Master in some small way. And so he got the right attitude and was then, helping in all sorts of ways because he had that open heart and that desire to just serve. Not, and to just serve for the sake of serving Master, not for pats on the back, good job, that kind of stuff. So anyway, we can learn to have the right attitude towards service, and it's very important as devotees to have that. Okay, so I kind of covered the part about withheld from those who don't care to hear them when I mentioned in the beginning how, we don't want to push that onto other people. But let's see. The other thing I wanted to end on is, how do we love God more? And many people, when they're in the classes, especially in the beginning of the class, just say, what does it mean to love God? I understand loving my family or loving my work or something like that. But what do you mean love God? What do you mean getting closer to God? That kind of a thing. But there are steps we go through on the spiritual path that lead us there. And so, whether we're working on self-control, whether we're working on devotion or everything we should be working on, We want to have that open mind. You know, when someone wants discipleship here, like I had said earlier, sometimes people will say, oh, I already know everything. You know, you don't have to teach me anything. I already know. I want Kriya because I know it'll make me spiritually advanced. I already know all these things. And so that type of person is not necessarily the right person to take discipleship. And it even says in the book, we need to have that attitude of I need help. That is part of what is surrendering to the Guru. I need help. I've tried doing everything on my own. And I may be a smart, competent person. I may know a lot of things. But why am I miserable inside? Why is there a part of me that's suffering still? So we really want to say, I need help. This is the key to forming the right prayers. This is the key to getting answers to prayers. If we pray for something because we know I want that, give it to me, I need it. If we pray for something with the attitude of Master, just whatever your will is, please answer this prayer in the way you think is better because I need help. I don't really know what's right anymore, meaning I don't know what's right for this situation that I need help in. I tried, I messed it up. So please give me help. I need your help. You know, when Swamiji first started out on this path, well, actually, not first started out, when he started Ananda, you can hear in his early talks, he would say, I really strive to merge my will with Master's will. I'm striving for that. And everything I do, I say, Master, is this what you want me to do? Even in small things, is this what you want me to? There's a constant discussion with Master. And, you know, even when there was one time when one of the temples at the meditation retreat caught on fire and burned to the ground. You know, this is, when people first started Ananda Village, it was like starting a whole new village. Like you have to build the homes, you have to, you know, they didn't really know how to do it. The roofs would leak. There was a lot of hardship. Winters are really, really cold there. If you've read anything about the American West, when people who were on the East Coast in, you know, even the 1600s, 1700s, they kind of tried to go west. And when they did, they encountered terrible weather conditions that, you know, they had to really have grit to continue to do it. And this is how it was for these people who were kind of in the semi-mountains, the foothills. It would be similar to Rishikesh, although I don't know if it snows in Rishikesh. But yeah, I think it does, at least as you get a little bit higher altitude. So these people went through really difficult times, but Jyotishji went over to Swamiji. Swamiji was just kind of at this balcony area looking into the trees. And he was kind of talking to himself, and Jyotishji saw that. And then he kind of, as he got closer to Swamiji, now this is after this temple that took a lot of hard work to build. People were building it on their own, not just hiring some guy to come do it. And so he said, he walked closer to Swamiji, and he just heard Swamiji say, too much joy, too much joy, too much joy. He was, there was that karma that came, the burning of the thing, but he was in his center, and he was just in bliss and joy. So Swamiji would say he was trying to merge his consciousness with Master, trying to really refer everything to Master. You know, we're very guru-centric here. You know, just wanting to just love and adore the Guru. And so when he got to the end of his life, or even, much before that. But still, when he got a lot older, what he would say, rather than I'm really trying to make sure my will matches, he said, I don't know where I end and Master begins. And he wasn't saying that out of self-glorification. It was the truth. It was something he said. And, that's where we want to be. And this is where we can be. If we really are sincere on this path and we avoid the pitfalls that are explained in the Bhagavad Gita here. And this is what is promised to us, that we can merge our will. And why merge our will? Because the Guru always knows what's right for us. The Guru always knows. And it can be very surprising how Master guides. You might think you need to take this action, and he says, no, instead take that action. And you say, what, really? That's not the action I would choose, but okay, I'm going to do it. And then you find out the Guru actually gives you the shortcut. It might be something harder to do, like apologize to that person and be open instead of yelling at them and forcing them to do it your way. So he might say, do it this way instead. And you find it was the shortcut to peace, the shortcut to harmony, the shortcut to spiritual progress, because I learned how to have an open heart and I learned how to be more loving. So anyway, I wish you all the best, and we're just so happy that you were able to come today, and we'll have the arati now.